My name is Arvind Maheshwari, and I'll be presenting this session on BPEL Infrastructure Management. And so here is the agenda we will be talking about. We'll go quickly over, giving some brief background about BPEL, then some challenges in managing BPEL environment, and then some key aspects where we focus on when we manage the BPEL environment. Then we'll recommend some of the best practices and how you can implement those practices using some of the management tools. And then I'll show the demo of Enterprise Manager in implementing those best practices. So what is BPEL and how BPEL evolved? Typically, whenever all the applications are developed for some business purpose, and whenever the business purposes are, the applications are done for business purposes, but in typical environment, the business guys don't have any visibility into IT infrastructure, and IT guys have don't understanding of the business requirements. And there is often a mismatch into there is literally a wall between the business folks and the IT folks. And many times business needs much more agility and many more changes, and it is very often it is very difficult for IT guys to implement those changes. So to solve these kind of problems, over a period of time, the SOA architecture and one of the main platform to implement the SOA architecture, the BPEL Server or the BPEL language came up, and it has come with the overall lot of period of R&D, and it is main purpose is all the business, typically whenever there is a business application, most of the changes are in the flow of orchestration, or most of the changes are not really happening at the individual component level. So BPEL supports by providing a flexible architecture where all these flow or orchestration changes can be made using BPEL language, where it can reuse the existing services. So typically there is an example of one BPEL service, they have a different existing business services running over there. There is a discount service, there is a credit service, and there is an inventory service. And the whole business operation goes by orchestrating some flows between these three services. And this is defined, business analyst or the guy who understands business process, he can implement this orchestration without taking inputs or getting involved with the IT guys. And each of these services are exposed as partner links in BPEL, and all these BPEL has rich semantics of defining these flows based like we have in our programming languages, if then else, do this condition, that condition, but in XML flow where the business analyst can define these flows. It can it have constructs to define to invoke a web service or a partner link. It can even define new variables or add or remove the variables. It has some provision for fault handlers. So the typical runtime framework for BPEL is we have a JDeveloper using which a BPEL designer can define a BPEL process, and then they can deploy a BPEL process on a BPEL server, and BPEL server has all the WSDL bindings and a lot of integration services and a core BPEL engine running over there. So after this BPEL, brief background about BPEL, we'll get into the BPEL infrastructure, what are the typical components of BPEL infrastructure and how we need to manage it. So in a typical BPEL infrastructure, we have a app server. On top of app server, we have BPEL server running, and we have a dehydration store, and we have this dehydration store could be a clustered database, and we have a provision for high availability at BPEL server level, and people can put load balancers in front of it. So any typical management solution which wants to manage BPEL infrastructure, they need to manage all these components, and EM grid control is one of the such management tools. So key challenges for anybody managing BPEL infrastructure. It is like complex IT infrastructure. It has like a lot of complex applications running over there. There is like not a formal blueprint of topology. So how to discover that topology? How do you maintain your service level agreements? So these days, like even within an organization also, like you see like service level agreements between one department to another department. For example, like there are SLAs between IT help desk and the other parent organization. Like all the tickets should be solved within 2 hours. So so maintaining the moment we define like things in SOA architecture, SLA becomes a very key component. And to maintain the SLAs, like you have to diagnose and fix the issues in your required parameters. And on top of it, the business IT alignment factor. So, so far like business, the IT administrator never had the visibility of business processes. And the business guys, they didn't have any insight on the IT infrastructure. Now with BPEL and all these integration platforms coming up, the IT guy also has visibility into business processes. So to define the utilization or ROI on the IT resources, all the system monitoring has to be aligned with the business processes. After the key challenges, I would like to get into some of the aspects which we want to focus on when we are managing a BPEL system. So there is something called BPEL Ecosystem. So when we say like we want to manage our BPEL server, we just don't want to manage our BPEL server only. We want to monitor or manage all the upstream as well as the downstream component, and we should be able to manage it at the component level, and we should be able to drill down into further granularity level. So to begin with, like any BPEL system has BPEL processes and partner links. It runs on top of a BPEL engine. It needs a dehydration store. It needs a gateway to BPEL engine in case of you have a clustered BPEL engines and there is a load balance and other things. And on top of it, all this BPEL engine runs on one of the application servers which uses a lot of JCA adapters and other WSDL bindings. And on the top, like all these application servers run on some machines. So if you say like you are monitoring your BPEL server, you have to monitor all these components and maybe many more, like whatever things typical things you use. So when we say we want to manage BPEL processes, so what are the aspects of BPEL process management? Typical, the basic thing is like you should be able to deploy your BPEL suitcases. So BPEL, like the way all the web applications are packaged in shape of WARs or ERs, BPEL definitions are packaged into BPEL suitcases. So for anybody who is managing the BPEL system, that is the first task, like to deploy a BPEL suitcase. And as I said, like the main purpose of this SOA infrastructure coming up and all the BPEL and other platform coming up is like the business processes are changing very rapidly. So the BPEL administrator also have to keep track of all the BPEL business process definitions, all different versions over there, to see the changes over there. And many a times, like some business processes are getting retired and some new processes are coming, how to keep track of these things and to restore them in emergency. On top of it, it has to monitor the health and performance of BPEL processes, the individual partner links and the individual adapters. So a BPEL process is like a typical orchestration between one business entity and some of its partners. So like you may have like say Landmark Bookstore, and Landmark Bookstore has a partner which is like say ICICI Bank. So whenever you go and do some shopping on Landmark book site, it sends a request over there to deduct some money from your credit card account. So if you put the whole model into a BPEL paradigm, so in the BPEL process, like Landmark will probably have a BPEL process. It will make a partner link call to ICICI. And whenever you have partners in business, you typically have some SLAs over there. Like my customer should not be waiting more than few seconds over there. So you have to maintain the SLAs at partner link levels. So typically to have BPEL deployment. How's the typical flow? The business process analyst or the business process designer, he defines the business processes. He puts a business process into some software library, and when the BPEL administrator comes, he takes the BPEL process and he deploys it on the BPEL servers. So, and there is a whole software library managed for the BPEL suitcases. And to maintain the SLAs, there could be various factors on the SLAs, like as I was saying, like the credit card processing time, it should be under this many seconds, or there could be SLAs on the IT resources also. CPU resource should not go beyond 80%, or there should be 20% CPU available all the time. So, I'm sorry. So how do you maintain like some of the actual behavioral SLAs? Behavioral SLAs means like you are making a call and you are seeing some performance or some perceived performance. So you keep on hitting your web services through some of the tests, some of the automated tests, some like the way we have typical beacon test, and keep on bringing the performance data over there. So in this, in the Landmark and ICICI Bank example, from different location, maybe Bangalore and Chennai, from both the locations, you can keep on hitting the web service which does the credit card deduction, and you keep on accumulating that data, and you can define your SLAs based on that. Managing the BPEL engine. So typically in a BPEL setup, millions of transactions are getting processed. So once these transactions are done, like there are some routine operations that a BPEL administrator has to do. Like you have to archive all the completed processes. Since these are business transactions, you cannot just remove them, you have to keep them somewhere. You remove all the messages delivered. All these BPEL systems are built based on some JMS queuing, and so whatever the messages are delivered and done with it, we have to remove. Purge the stale instances. Stale instances are like when you make a change to business process and the old process is no more longer in action. You have to remove those stale instances. And sometimes, like all these, you need to re-execute those stale instances on the newer version of the business process. You have to do these things. And in addition to process-related operations, you have to manage the BPEL configuration, like the dispatcher threads or other things. Whatever the typical BPEL configuration is, audit thresholds and other things. You need to monitor the dehydration stores, and you need to monitor the adapters. Because the performance application server is the underlying infrastructure on which your BPEL server is running. If application server is not behaving well, then your BPEL performance will also go down. And you have to manage the host. All the BPEL servers are running, or the application servers are running on some host, and the host performance can affect the application server, which can in turn affect the performance of BPEL server. So based on all these aspects and what BPEL is, we have some of the best practices, and these best practices are like you manage the whole ecosystem. When you say like I'm managing my BPEL environment, you just don't manage your BPEL environment, you manage the whole ecosystem. All the hosts involved over there, all the load balancers involved over there, all the Java containers involved over there, all the JVMs, databases, listeners, everything which is needed for execution of business process. You establish service level objectives. Since the reporting has to be more aligned with the business and IT, with the business part of it, we have to establish some service levels at the individual partner link or the individual service, or the service level objectives at the whole business process level. Need to automate the routine operations like purging of archiving the instances. It should happen automatically every few days or whatever the parameters defined. This again, the keep track of membership change, it is like the part of ecosystem. I'm sorry guys. membership changes is a part of managing the ecosystem. Let's say today you are running your BPEL server on one J2E container, and because of the performance things, you need to add one more member to the cluster. And now the performance goes up, and after some time again you remove one of the member from the ecosystem. So you have to keep track of like what all changes are happening, and in addition to monitoring the performance, you also need to see like what all additional things I need to monitor. So this keeping the track of membership helps in that. Keep gold image of your configuration. So anytime something goes wrong, there are a lot of diagnostic tools and other things which are available. But the first thing you see is like this thing was working yesterday, why it is not working today? First thing you see is like what has changed from since then. So if you keep a gold image of your configuration and you can compare it with your current configuration, that's the best way of diagnosing, or that's the first thing people go with it. Monitor all the resources used by BPEL engine, and like align your monitoring with the business process.
How is this different from any other application monitoring? Because most of these seem to be typical of any application ecosystem that you have.
Yeah. One main thing, like you will see, like there are a lot of like common sense practices, like, but the thing is like if you see the whole SOA environment, now we have started defining like all the things in terms of services, and we have started seeing the things like aligning with the business processes. So in that context, like all the things, I agree with you, like most of the things are like common sense, but at some point in time, like you formalize these concepts and say. So based on, and some of the points I'll come in a little while, like it is like typical for a, let's say for example for a web application or a shopping cart application, which doesn't use any of this SOA constructs or any BPEL or anything, still you would say like there would be a load balancer and server and JVMs and all these things. But in the end, like the way people have started looking at the whole SOA infrastructure and how things are managed over there are some things I'll come. So, so we have gone through like the various aspects, and we have recommended some of the best practices. Now, how do you implement those best practices? Like, and implementing those best practices, it brings up with some real challenges. Like you have to manage the complete ecosystem together. You need to have some management tool where you can see the full picture of all the components used by BPEL ecosystem. You need to have a way to manage configuration or compare configuration. So again, you need to have a place where you can capture the configuration of the whole ecosystem and manage and compare with the other systems. You have to have in systems management, how do you model the whole ecosystem and how do you define IT infrastructure as a service? So, and how do you monitor the processes and partner links and look for SLA violations? And how do you get alerted when problems occur and diagnose issues? For that thing, we need to pick up a right management tool which can assist in all these things. So we need to, in the right management tool, we need to have some concept of discovery which can like automatically discover the topology. So there are cases where nobody maintains a clear map of like these are my application servers and these are my things, and there are at times things get added or removed. So as things get, for example, if IPL site is expecting high volume today, like they will be adding more servers and tomorrow they will be removing the servers. So all your SLAs and all monitoring things should automatically detect those things and accordingly monitor and manage. You need to model your systems and services. So you need to group all these things, and on the top of it, you need to monitor all your infrastructure as a service. So the basic difference between an IT system and a service, if you look at it very primitive level, when you say like my server is up or my server is down, from an IT administrator point, the server is up, but server may not be doing its whole thing because it is hitting 100% CPU. So the whole memory swapping thing must be happening over there. So even though you say like my server is up, but it is not serving the content. So, but when you say like a system, you just say like, okay, server is up or not. But when you say service, then you can define your service level objectives over there. Like system should be up and it should not be going beyond 80% CPUs. So these are the final things which we start adding the moment you start defining things as service. Because in terms of service, like for example, you expect us, if you go for a service to any bank or any other place, you don't care what is the complexities behind that. All you want is a service. So same way, like in this service also, all you want to do is like, I want this operation to be happening. I don't care what is happening behind the scenes on that thing. So for an IT administrator to group all these things into a system and to define a service over there, you need a tool over there. These are the typical BPEL process metrics, like how my open and closed instances are performing, how are my typical latencies on the BPEL processes. You have to, for the error hospital integration, in typical any business flow system or any, like you might have seen in earlier B2B systems or other things, there are at times like the BPEL process or the business process has to be resubmitted. Like for example, many times orders don't get processed. You have to resubmit the orders. And you can't ask customers to do the resubmission of orders because of some system failure on the system. So all such errors go into error hospital, and you need to keep an eye on error hospital and some mechanisms to manage the things in error hospital. Then on top of it, service test. We talked about the SOAP test or running a web service test from different location. You need to have different kind of tests for doing like different kind of monitoring. It could be a web test which goes to the web login page. It could be a SOAP test which goes and really submits a SOAP test request. So this is a typical, I think whoever has used BPEL Server, this is it's like the Hello World application for BPEL Server. Here like user submits a transaction, it goes to ESB, then Oracle, that's another integration component. So it goes through the whole flow where like various SOAP tests are executed and various services are executed. And how, and we need a monitoring solution to monitor all these aspects. I'll quickly come over there. So again, like this is the whole SOA infrastructure management. And in the end, like as we talked about, like it is a whole complex architecture where you have load balancers, all this kind of IT resources. Then you have various partner links, and each partner link could be going to a different business partner. In the end, you want to have a top level monitoring. And you want to see like overall my business process is how it is working. You should be able to see it in a concise and in a drill down way, like where you can see at top level how is my business process doing. And if it is not doing fine, then you should be able to drill down like whether it is more because of the IT resource, or is it because of some of the partner link not adhering to the SLA, or is it because of something else. So in any time, like at the top level, you want to see like whether my order booking system is working fine or not. If order booking system is not working fine, is it because my load balancers have gone down, or is it my supplier is not delivering the books on the time? So we model it as like in this example I am showing you. So at top level you see this is my business process, the order booking process, and it is fine. And in last 24 hours it is meeting the service level agreements. Same thing for last 7 days and last 31 days. And this SOA order booking service is depending on the infrastructure and the availability of partners. So again, those things are also modeled as two different services. And you can see like the availability of partners is not meeting the requirements. So even though you might have given it to your customers like, okay, we'll deliver a book in 24 hours. You are delivering the books in 24 hours, but whatever the agreement you had with your partners, like they will give you book in 12 hours. They have not given it to you all the time in 12 hours. So only 97% of the time they have matched their commitment. So you have a gap over there which you could be. So you can directly see like there is a process gap over there. where like even though your partners are not obliging with whatever the commitment you have, but you are meeting with the commitment with your customers. So now you can, if you can really squeeze in over there, you can tell your customers like we can probably ship it in 22 hours. So in the end, the summary of like all the things we went over there. So we had this concept of BPEL ecosystem. So where like all these components for BPEL are listed over there. It needs to be, we need to have to manage it better. We need to have an automatic discovery, and we need to have a resynchronization with the topology. Whenever the ecosystem changes, our model and our monitoring should change. At the BPEL server level, we have to model our server statistics, and we have to do the configuration management. At the BPEL process level, we have to manage the process deployment, we have to monitor the process statistics, we have to monitor the partner links, and in the end, we have to manage our SLAs. Some of the things I'll be showing you with the management tool is like how do we model our BPEL ecosystem and BPEL processes, and how do we monitor the different components of this ecosystem, how do we monitor individual processes, how do we monitor individual partner links, and how SLAs are managed. And in the end, like we need to have a concise way of reporting them in terms of some dashboards. So overall example, the one which I think somebody asked a question about, like how it differs from a typical application ecosystem. So if you see like at the very basic level, we have some infrastructure component, like servers and storage devices and firewalls, load balancers. On top of it, we are running some of the software components, application servers, databases, identity management services like LDAP and other things. On top of that, we build some applications, whether they could be based on Java or .NET. On top of this, we define like some engineering some business processes. So I'm sorry, these are the engineering processes. You say like we need to have some program to do a product catalog. I need to have some program to do inventory management. I need to have some program for order fulfillment. And on using those things, we implement some business flows. So what is happening is like the business guys, they have a visibility up to this area. The engineering guys, they have visibility up to this area. And that's where the difference between a typical business, if some in the typical application and the BPEL business process, is like when you want to monitor a BPEL business process, you want to get more visibility into all the underlying components also over there. Like in a typical regular business application, you don't have typical this kind of visibility unless you model these things as services, these circles over here. You cannot link it with each business process flows. So at every layer, you have to have some kind of mapping and management. So we need to have some kind of management solutions at this host and storage device level. You need to have some management solution at middleware and database level. You need to have some management solution at different services level, and you need to have some management and mapping at the business process levels. And whenever somebody wants to look top down, they should have a proper mapping between these levels. So if you say like, I want to see how my enter order is performing, and is it time to scale up my enter order system, or is it time to remove some servers from enter order systems because they are not getting utilized. You first need to find out like what are the services used by enter order. Once you know those things, you need to know what are the application servers or application suites running those services, on what host they are running. Then only you can have the full visibility from business guy's perspective. And in the end, if you want to manage it from that perspective, you need to have something which can do this management and monitoring across all these layers. And Oracle Enterprise Manager is one of one product like this, which goes across all the layers where you can define the mappings and management. So just to list down the overall management features over there, and it fits into the second layer over there. all the databases, middlewares, networks, storage, servers, we monitor and manage over there. And most of the management solutions, most of the functionality so far used to be in the bottom 2 or 3 layers. But in this, by showing this BPEL management or BPEL infrastructure management, we want to show this extends up to the top layer. So here are the resources. I'll get into I cannot do the demo, but I'll show you some of the slides. But here are the resources if you want to find out more about it. It's at otn.oracle.com products Oracle Enterprise Manager. So in an enterprise manager, when you get in, you can see all the targets, and you can see all different types of target, be it databases, you get application server. At one top level, you have a visibility of how much of them are down, how much of them are up, how much of them are in critical shape, warnings, how many are needing patching, how many have some security violations. So I'm just quickly going through a couple of generic features in Oracle Enterprise Manager, and then I'll be getting along with the BPEL Infrastructure Management. So inside, you can see all different types of, we are talking about the layer 1 and the layer 2 on that diagram. So here you can see all the hosts, databases, application servers. Here is we are talking about the discovery of, automated discovery of all the components. So you can discover all the BPEL servers, and it is, it monitors and manages all the components across vendors. It is not just Oracle components. It can monitor WebLogic and so once we drill down to a particular Oracle BPEL manager, so here we are seeing the, you can see the basic status of the Oracle BPEL process manager. It is up. How is availability in last 24 hours? And so, and how many business processes are getting executed since last time we've looked at it. So here we are crossing the boundaries between layer 3 and layer 4. So now we can see, okay, these are the services getting executed by this BPEL process manager. And here you see this system and services tab. This is for showing, this is the BPEL ecosystem. And here you can see all the hosts. So in this typical example I'm showing you, it is running on one server, one database, and one JVM. So all the components which are used for this BPEL ecosystems are there. And you can see you are not just monitoring the BPEL system, you are monitoring all the components used over here. You are keeping track of all the configuration changes. For example, I am seeing for host, we have not made any changes. For OC4J, 1 configuration change has been done. And BPEL Process Manager, 3 configuration changes are done. And you can get a total count of all the configuration changes. There are no system membership changes. That means no new component is added or no new component has been removed. At overall ecosystem level, what are the alerts, what are the violations, how many security violations have happened, and how many patches need to be applied. You can see the list of all the components forming my BPEL Process Manager. You have host, JVM, J2E container, BPEL Process Manager, and database. Then moving on to the processes. So now we have the listing of individual business processes. So that's where we move from layer 4 to layer 5 visibility also over here, and managing and mapping the layer 4 to layer 5 visibility. So you can see all your BPEL business processes. You can see all what lifestyle stage whether they are active or not, and whether they are available for service or not. You can see one particular service is in state off. It is not ready serving. And it shows you the errored instances, open instances, and the closed instances. That is the business invocation of each business service. And once you click on any individual business service which are shown over there, you can see the details of that business service, how that so on the first screen we saw like all the at much coarse granular level, all the executions happening in this business this BPEL server. But for now, for example, there are 3 business processes getting executed. You can see the throughput for that particular business process over here, and you can see how is the availability of that business process. So if you say my business process is up, that means like all your BPEL infrastructure has to be up, all your partners should be up. So how we model is like all the infrastructure, we model it as a infrastructure service, all the partner and availability we model as the availability service, and based on that we show like whether my BPEL service is up or not. And once it is the scroll down of the same page, like for that BPEL service, what are the different partner links and what are their WSDLs and what are the operations getting involved in this business process. So this is the place where like the IT guy also start having a visibility into business processes. So once he has the visibility in business processes, he can do the reporting according to the business processes. This is again like at the BPEL container level, how are the latencies or how are the delays in the asynchronous business processes and how are the delays in the synchronous processes. I talked about this keeping a gold copy of your configuration where things are working fine and later on comparing it with what had gone wrong. So in using Enterprise Manager, you can keep all the configuration for a BPEL Process Manager, and not only BPEL Process Manager, all the components, all the hosts or application servers or JVMs. And here you see all the configuration captured over here. So these are the configuration at Process Manager level. These are the configurations at BPEL domain level. These are the configuration at BPEL process level. So here you see like for every process, not only the process definition or process flow we capture all the WSDLs, all the XSDs needed for this business process. And these are the configuration files for BPEL Process Manager. So the use case I was telling you is like assuming like things were working fine yesterday and things are not working today. So first thing you look is like, has somebody touched into something? So here in BPEL, you can, here using Enterprise Manager, you can do is you can compare the configuration with one working system with not working system, or you can compare the configuration with today and yesterday. So if things are not working, you immediately come and compare. In these screenshots, I am comparing with 2 BPEL servers, but you can compare 1 BPEL servers with different timestamp. So here you come over, you see like, hey, all the things have changed. That means somebody has touched the system. What other things changed? So in Process Manager, all these parameters have been changed. You can see the connection pool name has been changed and cluster name has been changed. Then you see at domain level also things have changed, but you see like it's not just the domain names are same, no new domain has been added or no new domain has been removed, but there are some changes in the domain. So further drill down and say, looks like yeah, somebody increased the audit threshold from 50K to 100K. That's why my systems are slower today. And finally, you can compare on the processes also. Like, did they add a new business process, or did they remove an existing business process, or did they put a new version of a new business process? So here you can see comparison of the business process. So here I am just taking 2 different systems. So it is showing like this business process is not there in this system. This is not there. So it is like a typical, like I think file diff kind of output you all might have seen is like, but it shows that system level that these new business processes are added, or these business processes are changed, or these business processes are updated. And further you can drill down like what has really changed. So in the previous example, I'll take the example of this one where like the same service is there, version 1.0, but something has changed. So what has changed? So you can further drill down and you can see like all the constructs or all the files defining this BPEL's business process have been changed. And what are the changes? What are the changes? You can further click and see. So looks like, yeah, nothing much has changed, but only thing is the timestamps are different. So on these two servers, like somebody has touched the file. It may be looking same, but somebody has touched the file. And it shows like what time somebody has touched the file and what are the changes. And same way the configuration files are also there, and you can compare those configuration files. So here I am comparing the two versions of BPEL, as I mentioned, like one BPEL is running on WebLogic, one BPEL is running on Oracle Application Server. So it shows like, yeah, here is also changed. It could be like a simple space or something, but this one is running on Oracle App Server, and this one is running WebLogic. So this is the difference between these two systems. There could be major differences also. And so yep, that's all I had. Any questions you have?
If it is done on individual invocations of process, what happens for a particular instance?
There are two aspects of like any monitoring or management. One aspect is like you want to see like at overall level how things are going, and typically for a business process you look for the things where things are going wrong. So there are always like fine-grained tools where you can go for looking at individual instances, but at overall system, like somebody is looking, let's say some guy is sitting in a data center, or some guy is looking at overall perspective where things are right or wrong. He doesn't need to go at the individual levels, but definitely if some errored things are happening, like some errors are happening, then we have provision there they can click on, and then it redirects them to the BPEL console. Sorry? Event handling. There are like again like all this management is like typically by exception. Like if you see any administrator or anybody who is managing a system, they go and manage the things when things fail, or they want to have some visibility where things are like about to fail. Like today, okay, these things are taking like 10 seconds, and tomorrow it is taking 12 seconds. So still system is working fine, but then administrator has to look at it. So they do it, if it is working at 10 seconds itself, he'll probably not even look at the system, right? So you do management by exception. So in these kind of terms, like, okay, yeah, we have this at the process level, if the times are changing or things are moving a lot or within a boundary, they really get an alert. Like I could not connect to network, otherwise I could have shown it to you. So business process level, you can define like whenever my average process execution time, it goes beyond 10 seconds, alert me. At individual activity level? At individual activity level, we don't have it right.
There is another provision, just adding to what he already said. So if you have business processes and if you're catching event on the business, how many orders are placed or how many orders above $1,000 have been placed. So we have a provision for business activity monitoring. So you can plug in we have a BAM component. So you can plug in that component in your BPEL engine that will monitor the business transactions or the business invocations, and that integration can be done with the SOA management pack that we have here. So when you have he demoed about a dashboard that shows the business processes and the components at the top level. So you can bring in those BAM metrics also. So you have end-to-end visibility from the business side, how many orders have been placed, or how many invocation have happened on the have taken place on the actual business process, or what are the CPU metrics of the host of the application server, etc. So using that BAM integration with the SOA management pack, you get the end-to-end picture of the business metric as well as with the system metric and the process metrics.
Suppose there is a receive activity in BPEL. So what is the status? It is in a start state or stop state or skip state or terminated. There are different levels for each activity. So I can put whatever the level I want to see. I can choose like that. Any stuff is there in Oracle.
Yeah, actually, can I answer that? Anand?
Sure, go ahead.
So this solution that Arvind demoed right now, presented right now, is basically grid management. Okay. So this solution will give you management capability, monitoring capability for all the infrastructure components, all the app servers, etc. If you are interested at that granularity level, if you want to see what is happening to an individual instance, where it is hanging, where it is denied, if there is a human workflow, if it has been activated or not, for that we provide a capability from the enterprise manager to launch a BPEL console. You can log into the BPEL console. From the BPEL console, you can drill down to individual instances of the process.
Okay.
So for example, if your order fulfillment is waiting for approval of something, okay, or maybe the credit service is not yet replied.
Yes.
So you can drill down to the individual instance. You can see what all XML has been passed. You can go to that level.
Okay.
Okay. So that end-to-end monitoring is available. But that feature, since we already have a console for that, we don't have that in the grid control. Okay. So what we provide here is an end-to-end monitoring management along with other components, along with host, along with app servers, along with databases, okay, all of that. If you want to have visibility to that level, there is a BPEL console available for which we have a launch capability from the.
So, okay. So adding to that, like as I was saying, like we are showing the dashboard over there. First thing you want to see is like at the top level whether my business service is working or not. Okay. And you need to have mechanisms where if some things are not right, they should bubble up at the top of that service level. So if you have like proper monitoring of that, like as we said, like we have a SOAP test and we have other metric collections over there. If something is going on wrong over there, it should bubble up at that level. So it is more like, okay, if we are looking at like say not 60,000 but like say 50 feet above the ground level of the things, like how things are working fine or not, then you can see at top level things are working or not. If not working, do I have tools to drill down further? So if things are not working fine, I can see whether my IT infrastructure is breaking or my partners are not working or some of the processes are getting delayed. So at top level, and if processes are getting delayed, you can always have like say, as we defined, like we maintain the SLAs for each of the thing. Let's say if one particular activity is taking like say 2 or 3 days, where it is supposed to take only 1 day, like your manager approving your time card.
Okay.
If it is getting 3 days, you need to capture that the time of 3 days. You need to define SLAs whenever it is above 1 day, your SLAs are violated, and that thing will bubble up. So anybody in the company, if he is looking at this business process at top level, he will see like, hey, this time card approval thing is not working fine. It is not because of IT. It is more because of this particular SLA being violated by some managers.
There we have provision for creating custom event also. So according to my requirements, I can develop custom event. I can post in the editor, so I can monitor. That facility is there in IBM.
Yeah, creating custom events, yeah, certainly I think I would not be the right person to comment on that thing. Okay. It will be more like Oracle BPEL guys, but it is more about the BPEL team, but I am talking about the more from monitoring side. From implementation side, like generating this fault handling or BPEL flows or generating new event, that will be more appropriate question for Oracle BPEL guys. I am more about like managing the Oracle BPEL or the SOA infrastructure.
Yeah, I am also part of BPEL developer in my SOA team, Satya.
Okay.
That's why
so whatever features you are asking for are part of the BPEL suite, Oracle App Server, Oracle BPEL suite. So you can define the events, you can handle the exceptions there, data transformation, everything is there. But what we are demoing here is a management and monitoring aspect of your ecosystem, of your services, etc. How you define the process, that's a different product. How you monitor, how you manage the process, I mean, define the flow, do the orchestration, transformation, that's a different product. So,
one more thing, state in that one component like state mission, there we can, for an activity, suppose there is example, take order, I can develop different states. The order is in dispatch state or in courier. Like that I can create so many states of one activity. So like kind of stuff is there in Oracle.
Yeah. I would say like the whole BPEL implementation, this is like on some of the basic parts. Even I cannot comment authoritatively on that part. But
Okay.
all these implementations are based on some system.
Why I'm asking is we are also doing our R&D type of thing. So like we are developing some POCs in BPEL. So we are researching which tool is good to develop BPEL. So that's why I'm asking.
I'll suggest you to come to Oracle booth.
Yeah.
So we have a demo booth for Oracle App Server, BPEL switch. So those guys can answer you the questions that you have. If you want to see how the management monitoring work, we have the demo booth for that as well. So whatever features that he talked about today, as well as many more features of managing the rest of the middleware components, Oracle, non-Oracle components, we have a demo. We can give you the live demo of that. Okay. If you have questions related to the BPEL suite itself, what BPEL suite can do, what ESB suite facilities we have, then you can come to the demo booth. You can get a live demo there of your particular questions.
Okay, thank you.
But I'm sure we have those features.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
What is the performance considerations that one should understand before
You mean to say like the performance consideration before you decide to implement a business process?
For
Or
example, like I have a customer and then he wants to go ahead to implement a BPEL. Right? So what are the consideration you should understand before he goes and implements a BPEL solution? Or say, for example, I have a workflow and then it has rules, it has business logic, it has, manual workflows, it has automated workflows. So, I don't want to go to the activity monitoring tool and say, okay, these are the SLAs I want to attend. So before I go and fix all those, I just want a ground line so that what are the performance consideration I should go before I go ahead and implement a BPEL solution.
okay. I think again this question is a little more as like, okay, whether we should go for BPEL solution or not, right?
Some sort of that. It's like a business-driven decision, right? So what are the considerations you should understand? Like any customer, as a matter of fact.
Again, like the consideration from moving from like, I think can I rephrase your statement like,
right,
it more from my legacy system, like what are the things I should watch for when I move to a BPEL system,
right.
BPEL standard?
It's pretty much like what are the difficulties I'm going to face tomorrow if I go ahead and implement BPEL.
So again, like I can have an offline chat with you, but again we have like the BPEL team itself or some people from BPEL team. I would not be the most appropriate person to comment on, like I'm more about like, okay, once you have done your implementation in BPEL, with any system you put together, in the end, like, okay, how do you manage that system?
Right.
So we are more into that space, like how do you manage the BPEL system?
Thanks.
How do you diagnose cascading effects in infrastructure projects? How do you determine, where it's obvious that the top level will always show that's the red status, your fifth or sixth level. Is there a direct process of getting to the root directly instead of?
Yeah, we have a root cause analysis kind of thing. So like in the same example, when you said like, okay, BPEL infrastructure is failing. So at the top level, you will say like my business process is failing. And once you drill down into business process, why my business process is failing? Because my IT infrastructure service is failing. And once you say like my IT infrastructure service is failing, you can drill it down and further and say like, hey, this particular host has violated, it has gone above 80% CPU. So all these constructs are there. We have a root cause analysis. We have all these dependencies defined. Like we have dependencies like, okay, this JVM is part of this J2E container. This J2E container runs on this host. And this J2E container talks to this database. It depends on this database. And this J2E container is routed traffic through this load balancer. All these relationships are captured as a part of automatic discovery. So once you have these relationships built into the system, you can, whenever something underneath fails it, we have a like three kind of view. Again, like, sorry, I don't have network connected. If you can come to our booth, we can probably show it to you. The moment something fails, you click on a root cause analysis. It takes like a couple of seconds and builds the tree and show you like where is the problem.
Same thing is true with the SLA distribution. You have an SLA loss or an SLA breach. Now there's always political scenario where, who's going to take the hit for that particular loss of SLA. Does this automatically give you a dashboard where you can say, this is where the SLA loss has to be attributed to something very specific?
That's a real tough question to answer. Like I would say, we can show you the SLA loss, and we can show you where the SLA loss is happening and what is the cause of SLA loss. But attributing it to politically or to some person or some department is always a
meant only from a system perspective, not
from system.
you are responsible.
Yeah, system perspective, like you can see, like the SLAs are lost for these services, and SLAs because of this particular metric going wrong or because of this thing going wrong. We can get that particular drill now.
Okay, thanks.
And we can have propagate those metrics at a dashboard level as well.
Yeah. We have a booth over here, like on the just near the main auditorium. If you want to see some of the features or some of the functionality in details, you can visit the booth, and we'll be happy to show you all.